3 o'clock, 6 minutes after the hour of 3 o'clock on the 7th day of October in the Lord's year 2016. I'm J. Michael McCoy, and welcome to the Friday edition of Max World Live. Fridays are always 15% more fun. I'm not sure we won't exceed that today with our guests. Of course, Bob Montser at the Cat in the Hat watching the chat on the Service Legends Truth Talk text line at 515-809-0993. Frank the Verse is here. You're going to be nice, Frank.
Oh, yes.
Frank's a little pharisaical, you'll find.
Just
and
a little.
Brian Meyer is here from Caffeinated Thoughts, and their Caffeinated Thoughts briefing.com is coming up a week from tomorrow on October 15th, and we're going to give away tickets both hours. We're not going to make a contest out of it. You know what we do in Max World. If you want a ticket or two, how many tickets do you have?
We got 10.
All right. So if you want some tickets and you know who you're going to take, don't claim tickets thinking maybe Aunt Sally will want to come. Call Aunt Sally and see if she wants to come. And you've got less than an hour for the first giveaway. And if you want up to 5 tickets, is that okay?
Sure.
We will give you 5 tickets. If you only want 4 or 3 or 2, then we'll give the others away at the end of the next hour. In fact, if we have more than 6 available in the second hour, maybe we'll do a couple pair. So text Frank at 515-809-0993. We'll just need your name and obviously a phone number we can text you back at or call you. Or go ahead and call Jebediah on the studio line at 515-244-0077. And Jebediah will collect all these names, and then we'll make a list, and we'll randomly draw names at about 3:58, 3:57. And those people will win the amount of tickets that they've requested, and then we'll do it again in the next hour. And you don't have to do it twice. If you call and get your name in the first hour, and you don't win, your name will be included in the second hour. So this is not a collection of phone calls or anything like that. You only need to call once. And there's a lot of good stuff going on at the Decaffeinated Thoughts briefing. And tell me who some of the guests are.
Yeah, we've got some great speakers coming in for the conference. We've got Dr. E. Calvin Beisner, who's from the Cornwall Alliance from the Stewardship of Creation. He has a background in historical theology, but his expertise right now is more in environmental issues with respect to things like a Christian view of the environment. He's an expert on climate change-related issues. We've also got Dr. Robert Gagnon, who's a professor at the Pittsburgh Theological Seminary. And Dr. Gagnon is one of the foremost experts in the United States today on the biblical view of sexual ethics. And we've also got Mike Ahmed, who you know, Mac. We've got Sue Thayer and Jen Bowen and Tim Overland to discuss the life issue. It's going to be a fantastic event.
And it is at where?
The Johnston Lions Club on Merle Hay Road in Johnston. Starts at 10 o'clock. It ends at 4. And you got to get registered by next Friday in order for us to provide lunch. But if you get registered online before midnight Friday, I think it is. No, it might be midnight Thursday. Anyway, whatever it is, get on there and get registered, and you will get a lunch from Smokey D's.
Ooh.
Oh, yeah.
Like a whole thing of ribs?
A whole thing of ribs?
A rack. It's called a rack. Usually when you get rigs, they're in racks.
Look, I can't speak to that. I just know Smokey D's is providing the lunch.
Right.
Or Iran.
Smokey D's is one of the best barbecue places here in town.
Anyway, get on there and get registered.
All right, so make sure that you call up Jebediah at 244-0077, or, of course, get a hold of Bob at the Service Legends Truth Text Talk line at 515-809-0993. All right, my special guest for the next hour or so is Joe Dallas, and he is an expert on biblical sexuality. And he will be doing a conference, hosting is Walnut Creek Church. Dan Root is here along with Luke. But it is a conference that will be held at the downtown church of Walnut Creek from 8:30 tomorrow morning until 2 p.m. And then Joe will also be the guest speaker at both services tomorrow night At 5 and 7. Anything at Walnut Creek West on Sunday, or is Joe done at Saturday night?
No, Joe will be speaking on Sunday morning at 9:15 and 11.
9:15 and 11. All right.
Yeah, Walnut Creek. Yeah, Windsor Heights.
Windsor Heights, yeah. I just moved into that area, and I got one of your door knockers. Kept it. All right, Joe, welcome.
Hey, good being here, Mac. Thank you.
First thing I got to ask is, that's really your name, Joe Dallas?
That is honestly my name. It's got nothing to do with Texas. That's got a Scottish origin to it. Actually, there's a clan named Dallas, and so that's what I'm descended from. It has nothing to do with Texas or sports or movies. Generally, people think it's some kind of a alias.
So, am I hearing for the first time in my 57 years that Dallas is Scottish?
Evidently, there is a clan with the name Dallas, and I believe it had a couple of letters attached to it at the end, but essentially Dallas.
Dallison.
Yeah.
I think it was Dallison, something
you may
like
have
that.
it right, yeah. He knows more about my family than I do, but yes.
Well, I just happen to know a Scottish guy by the name of Dallison. So that
there you go.
No expertise.
All right, and what makes you qualified, if I can just ask, what makes you qualified to come and talk about biblical sexuality?
Well, no more or less qualified than any serious believer. I mean, this is something that both the culture and the church are talking about. So it is something I think all of us, to an extent, are qualified to speak on. And we all bring our combination of personal experience, whatever professional expertise we have to it. I do have a good deal of personal experience with the subject because I identified myself as a gay Christian man from the late 70s into the early to mid 80s. And I've had the honor for about the past 30 years of working professionally as a biblical counselor to men and women who are personally affected by this, either in their own lives or if they have a loved one who's gay or lesbian, learning to improve their relationship with them. So
okay.
It's both a personal and a professional issue to me.
So if you're listening at home and your little squirrel just went up and you're thinking, oh, I got to call Aunt Betty because Aunt Betty, her son's gay or identifies as gay, and this is a tough subject for her, and it's not talked about very oftenly. Get her on the internet, webcast1live.com, macmccoy.com, however you want to do it. You can watch this and listen to it live on your smartphone. It's on TuneIn, the app for the Truth Network. And also, this will be available as a what you would call a podcast. They're called webcasts because they have a visual component. It's passionate radio with pictures, but this may be one of those conversations that needs to be passed around to family members because I don't know. I don't know of anyone who's not impacted by this. I don't know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody who isn't dealing with, that's just the way I'm going to put it, this area of, biblical discipline. And that's what it is. So we're going to be talking about that today. Frank, I'm just afraid to heavens to let you in here because you are so pharisaical, especially on this subject. Can you even say anything nice about gay people?
Well, I want to ask a serious question.
Well, can you say anything nice about gay people?
Sure. Gay people are nice.
Great. Okay, go ahead, Frank.
You did set him up, Mac.
Frank, Joe, just so you know, and he'll agree with this, Frank is my resident bigot racist. And he knows the Bible, probably not as well as a gentleman sitting to your left or yourself, but he knows it.
You forgot homophobe.
Oh, yeah, that's right, homophobe.
Well, let me ask you a question. In the 1800s, in the Little House on the Prairie days, if you was a man trapped in a woman's body or a woman trapped in a man's body, you just was trapped, right? Why the explosion in 2016 of identity crisis?
Good question. I think it's got to be happening in a context, right?
Right.
I mean, you can't see this kind of a shift, whether it's towards the redefinition of marriage, the redefinition of the family, or even the latest right being pushed for, I think transcends what you're saying about being trapped in one body or another and has to do with the ability to subjectively determine what we are. To basically say, if I say I am female, anatomy notwithstanding. You see what I mean? And I think that speaks to a broader trend towards what? Either a radical individualism, a departure from standard Judeo-Christian teaching into what to me seems to be a sort of a moral ethical void that's being left, and it harkens to something much older than the 1800s, as recorded in Scripture, where everyone did what was right in his or her own eyes, where we basically said, I will take the prerogative of calling the shots, and I will determine what is real or what is not. I think that's really where we get to the crux of this issue.
Well, at the Family Leader, we had a speaker down there named Del Tackett, and he was talking to the fact that God is neither masculine or feminine. He's both. And he split us up into, one of us has the masculine traits, one of us has the feminine traits, and that's his church. And there's this push in society now to take masculinity clear out of the church, only to feminize the church. The feminism attributes would be love, nurturing, etc. The masculine attributes would be truth, hunting, teaching, that sort of thing. And we're all about pushing masculinity clear out of the church, and all we're left with in the church is femininity, which is love and nurturing. So everybody's okay, everybody's accepted, you're okay, I'm okay.
Was there a question there?
Yeah, I'd like you to respond to that.
But that wasn't a question, that was a statement.
We'll put a question mark at the end of it.
Okay. We'll do that when we come back. It's 17 minutes after 3 o'clock on the 7th day of October in the Lord's year 2016. I'm J. Michael McCoy, and this is Mac's World. Here live on The Truth, 99.3.
Credit cards are like grandkids. They love you, sometimes get out of control, and it's fun to get a new one. Who can stop them from piling on?
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of Des Moines. At the end of the day, you can return the grandkids, but you're stuck paying off bad credit card debt. We'll help you put the fun back into using credit cards responsibly. Right, kids?
Yeah! If you need help getting credit cards off your back, call Consumer Credit of Des Moines.
Hi, my name is David Burrier, your Hope Coach. I host a live weekly talk show called I've Been There every Thursday afternoon at 5:30, right here on webcast1live.com, and on my weekly radio program Saturday mornings at 10 on Truth Network 99.3 FM. I interview common everyday people who have survived incredible life challenges and who testify to God's faithfulness in the midst of their storms. So join me as we bring a message of hope and encouragement. Everybody needs hope. I know, because I've been there.
Hey everybody, I brought Northern Lights Pizza! And it's got Graziano sausage!
Rock and Prevention is celebrating 25 years of creating a caring community. We want to say thank you to the tens of thousands of Rock High School mentors that have carried our message of health, love, and encouragement to over 1.5 million children, teachers, and parents. Our mentors teach children methods and skills to prevent bullying and drug use. Thank you to all the school administrators, teachers, and counselors for their opportunity to serve you. Rock on, fair citizens. Rock on. This is Pat McManus for Rock and Prevention, the Richard O. Jacobson Foundation, and this station.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live. From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
21 minutes after 3 o'clock, 3:21 in the afternoon. I bet you're thinking. You've heard this real estate market is phenomenal. You know, interest rates are still way down. I mean, it's silly how far down they are. In fact, as an economist, I'm a little scared that, well, I'm not an economist, but I stayed at a Holiday Inn last night. But as a fake economist, I'm a little worried about these low interest rates. They're talking about going down again. So whether you're buying or selling, you want to use a professional real estate agent, and I always tell you to use mine. I ask you to use mine. I ask you to interview mine. You don't have to use him, but interview him. Don't use your friend. I'm just telling you, don't use a friend. This is a $100,000 to $1 million purchase. It's the biggest thing in your life. And the wrong agent can make one little mistake on one piece of paperwork, and it will cost you for your entire mortgage. And sometimes we don't even realize the mistake until we go to sell the property 10, 12, 15 years later. I like Seth. He's friendly, and I guess we're friends. But he's my professional real estate agent. And with as much real estate as I buy and sell, I got to have the best. And I want to share him with you. 577-3728, 577-3728 from RE/MAX Real Estate Concepts. It's Seth Walker. All right, we are giving away tickets to the Caffeinated Thoughts briefing held next Saturday, Saturday, October 15th at the Lions Club in Johnston. If you want to be eligible for some tickets, text us at the Truth Text Talk line from Service Legends at 809-0993 or call Jebediah in the production facility at 515-244-0077. Here in about 20, 30, 40 minutes, we'll give away some tickets, and then we'll do it again in the 4 o'clock hour. And tell me some of the guests that are coming there, Mr. Meyer.
Once again, Dr. E. Calvin Beisner, Dr. Robert Gagnon, Dr. Nathan Oppman from the Family Leader, Mike Ahmed, who's a missionary to Egypt, Reverend Mike Erickson from Trinity Presbyterian Reformed Church will be there, Sue Thayer from the Cornerstone Pregnancy Resource Center, Jen Bowen, former CEO of Iowa Right to Life, Tim Overland with Personhood Iowa, and we'll, of course, have Shane Dervagen. How do you say his name?
Shane Vanderberg.
Oh, that's him. Yeah.
From Uncaffeinated Thoughts.
Or Decaffeinated
Whatever it is.
Dreams or something.
Yeah. All right.
There.
So if you want to win a couple tickets or 4 tickets, I'll glad to give you more than 2. I won't give you more than 6 because I've got to have 4 to give away the next hour, but I only want you to claim that many tickets if you know they can already go. Because we only have 10 tickets. 5, that's it. So I don't want you claiming tickets if you don't know you can go. I hope you're okay with that. And you do that, you just let us know at 515-809-0993. That's the Service Legends Truth text line. Or call Jebediah at 515-244-0077 and let us know. Our guest is today on the air is Joe Dallas. That's a real name, and he's not a stripper. He is a person who goes around the country, and I thought I should say that. I mean, Joe Dallas. He talks on biblical sexuality, and he's going to be doing that at Walnut Creek downtown.
I thought he was a gunslinger.
At the Walnut Creek Church. Dan Root is here. Dan, if what made you guys do this? Bring this? I mean, this is a little controversial.
Yeah, if you look at the culture, everyone is talking about sexuality right now, and I think that it leaves Christians in a place where it's hard to know exactly what to say, how much to say, what should we not say, what do we accept, what do we not accept. There's all these questions, and so just as a staff, we thought, this is one area where we want to equip our church to understand how to navigate the culture in a gospel-centered and Christ-exalting way. So that's why we decided to do something like this, and I think Joe has been a really good example of living the gospel and preaching the gospel, and then at the same time navigating these waters.
And he will be speaking at both your services Saturday night, 5 and 7, and then again at 9:15 and 11 at Walnut Creek West out in Windsor Heights. And there's a special conference going on from 8:30 tomorrow morning until 2 p.m., this again at the downtown Walnut Creek Church. Okay, you and Luke just jump in anytime you want with any questions. Or
You'll also be speaking at our South location at 6 p.m. as well.
On Sunday?
On Saturday.
On Saturday. Where's the South? Wait a minute. 5, 6, and 7?
Yep. We do it most weeks.
Okay, and where's the South location?
It's by Southridge Mall down on the south side. He's actually going to be speaking at all of the services. Some of them will be recorded, but one way or the other, he'll be at all the services this weekend.
All right, good. All right, Frank, you were attempting to try to be a journalist and ask Joe a question. Go ahead and try that again.
Well, let's just shorten it up. And what do you think of the effort to feminize the church by pushing masculinity out and just presenting the good cop part of church as opposed to the bad cop? With every invitation, there was also a warning of judgment from Christ. What do you think of this effort?
I think we got two things going on at the same time. I think one is an overreaction to distorted views of masculinity. At times, masculinity has been embodied in behavior that is, bossy, abusive, the man of the house, I call the shots, And in response to that, a lot of people are now just rejecting the concept of masculinity entirely, rather than recognizing, like all good things, it can be abused. Second thing has to do with a part of masculinity I think is critical structure. To my thinking, masculinity is less about the hairy chest and the deep voice and the muscle, although that's fine if you got all that going on. But essentially, to my thinking, masculinity is largely about structure and about contained, tempered aggression. Both very important, both for protection of a family and of a culture, and also for maintenance of truth and standards. We're in a time which I think Paul predicted when he told Timothy that at some point, truth, sound doctrine, it won't just be viewed as contemptible, it won't be tolerated. There will come a time when they will not endure sound doctrine. Now, where you have masculinity in its truest sense, you will have structure. You will have black and white. You will have this is right, you will have this is wrong. Now, if we want to talk in gender terms, you could say that the feminine proper addition to that will be grace and nurturing and gentleness, and they'll be working together. But if you take the masculinity out of that, just as you were saying earlier, you have nothing but mush. And so I think in a time when absolute truth is less and less tolerable, there's also a dismantling of the structural aspect of masculinity. So that would be my speculation on that.
We have go ahead, Frank.
Well, just quickly, boys.
Question.
It's a question.
Question.
Okay.
All right. Boys, in particular.
That's a statement. Question.
Okay. Why is it that our society seems to want to medicate our boys to knock masculinity out of them with the particular drug Ritalin?
I think even there you might have a cop-out. It's simpler to just say if the kid is a little tough to handle, if he has a strong personality, if he's easily distracted, or if his learning style is not to just sit and read a book, drug him, rather than work with either more creative ways of dealing with him or allowing, without allowing unfettered, but allowing some natural aggression in the kid while teaching him how to handle it properly. I mean, it seems to me that we're taking raw male energy and saying all of that has to be stifled rather than teaching people how to harness it properly. Again, my take on it.
All right, Joe Dallas is our guest today. He will be speaking on biblical sexuality. Walnut Creek churches at every single service they have, correct? Also, it will be recorded and available at your website. And specifically live at 8:30 to 2 p.m. tomorrow at the Downtown Church on a conference on biblical sexuality. Saturday night, 5 at downtown, 6 at Southridge, 7 downtown, and then Sunday 9:15 and 11. Man, I hope you got it memorized. Right?
I'm just following. They lead.
Yeah. Oh boy, you're in trouble now. All right. No, this is an awesome church. If you don't know that, this is really an awesome church. Reaches out and actually Walnut Creek is the gutsy church that would probably be the guy that would put this on.
You're right.
No, most people wouldn't.
And it takes courage to do that these days. It really does.
Yeah, I mean, I belong to a wonderful church. Love my church. Been there 10 years. Probably be there another 50 years, but we'd never touch this. Yeah. All right. So when we talk about biblical sexuality, are we also talking about sexuality between different genders? Are we talking about men and women and the sexuality that they have through the Bible, or is this primarily into the area of homosexuality, gay marriage, transgender, etc.?
We'll be largely talking about homosexuality and transgender and gender identity issues, but we want to start with the idea that any of these behaviors are no more condemned biblically than fornication between men and women, adultery between men and women, prostitution between men and women. We don't want to be singling out any particular group or any particular sin and elevating it to a special sin status. But by the same token, the church today, by and large, is not being pressured to legitimize fornication or adultery or prostitution. There is a tremendous pressure being put on the church, and I think oftentimes with the best of intentions, to revise our position on homosexuality and on gender identity for the sake of a more humane approach. And I think this is where the church, however lovingly, needs to push back and say there are definitive standards, biblically defined, which we have to adhere to if we're going to retain fidelity to the Scripture.
All right, so Luke, I want to ask you a question. So you've got a man and a woman in your church, and they. By the way, I'm not just picking on you. This is about a couple friend of mine.
Sure.
And so this question is being posed to almost every pastor that's probably going to be in here in the next couple of weeks. And Dan, I want your input too. Tom's been married very successfully for a lot of years, divorced. Cindy is of a very, very, very wealthy family, and she's been married before, and they want to have a covenant with God, but they don't want a state-issued marriage license. They don't think the state has any business being in the marriage business anymore, given what they've done, and the only thing they care about is a covenant from God. Would you marry them, or Dan, would your church marry them only as a covenant in God? And if they're not married by the state, is that adultery? And Joe, you can jump in here too.
I'd love to hear what they're going to say first.
Yeah, okay.
I'm a wimp.
All right.
Let them.
I would say I would not just immediately respond to them. I would spend quite a bit of time trying to understand their objection to getting a marriage license. But I think where we would land is that God has set up three institutions. He set up the government, he set up the family, he set up the church, and we believe that Christians are called to respect authority in society. And even if that authority is not righteous. In fact, oftentimes the authority in the culture is not righteous, it's unrighteous. And even in that, as far as it depends on us, if we're not required to violate the commands of God, we are to obey. We're to obey the government. That's why, even the Apostle Paul, something that just blows my mind in Romans 13, the Apostle Paul tells his audience to pay their taxes to the Roman government. And the Roman government, the emperor was Nero. Nero persecuted the Christians and eventually executed Peter and Paul. And so we see Paul understanding how God works through authority. And so we would say at the end of the day, we would ask people to do what the government asks and get licensed.
Dan Rude, senior pastor at Walnut Creek Church downtown, also Walnut Creek South Side and Walnut Creek West Side. Coming back with Joe Dallas live.
Northern Lights Pizza's amazing garlic butter makes amazing breadsticks. Now available in 12-ounce bottles at Northern Lights, Hy-Vee, and Graziano's.
Northern Lights Pizza. I'm Brian Leach, owner of Service Legends, and my position is Chief Talent Officer.
I'm Nicholas Wonderscheid.
I am Bernie Hobbs.
And I'm the Service Manager.
Marketing Director and Client Relations Manager.
Everything that we do is about ensuring that we exceed your expectations.
Our clients are important to us. 100% satisfaction.
We're not just focused on heating and cooling. That's the easiest part of our job, actually, is fixing furnaces and air conditioners.
Everyone that we come in touch with, we want to improve lives.
Bottom line is, we've got our installation guarantees, 25% energy savings guarantee, comfort guarantee, temperature selection guarantee, property protection guarantee.
100% satisfaction guaranteed. Fixed raters free.
All of those guarantees are backed up with a 100% money-back guarantee to hold ourselves accountable to making sure that you get what you're after.
Just fixing the problem today. If they have another problem 5 days down the road, it's still fixed right or it's free.
We use what's called straightforward pricing. Our technicians are going to give you an exact to-the-penny price on what it's going to take before they move forward with any repair. That way you know what to expect.
It's the same price every day.
No surprises.
If you get off work at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, you come home, you realize that, oh, my furnace is broken. Now you need to call somebody out that night. You shouldn't have to pay more for that.
We're guaranteeing service 24/7.
We run afternoons, evenings, nights, weekends. We're staffed to work that.
Phone rings at 3 in the morning. You'll get one of our representatives answering the phone every time.
We're not sending you out to Timbuktu in some call center. It's our Service Legend team members, our mission control team.
I'll take a call anytime.
And then they answer the phones the same way during the day as they do at night.
It's a great day at your service company. How can we make you smile?
That's the only way to provide true 24-hour service.
When you're able to let somebody actually live in their home safely when they weren't able to do that before, where they don't have to stay up at night and worry about, is the heat going to come back on? Are we going to freeze the pipes? Is the baby in the room next door going to be sick because they got too cold? When you're able to help somebody overcome challenges like that, that's impacting a life. That makes a difference. I get goosebumps thinking about it.
I love the team. I love the people that I work with.
We have fun, but we work hard.
I call them my ambassadors of legendary service. If you could just envision what that is, that's who we're sending to your home.
They literally will call in, pick up the phone and call and say, hey, I want to talk to your manager. And I get on the phone, they're like, that technician that was at my house was the greatest technician ever. That's cool to me.
We want to brighten people's days.
Every person that we have going into the house has gone through an extensive background check.
Drug testing, we have a very thorough interview process that 1 out of 140 people make it through.
If we promise you something, that's what you're going to get, no matter what.
We're here when you need us to protect the safety and comfort of your family.
If you're not happy, we're going to make it right.
If we're willing to put 100% money back guarantee on what we do, what type of work do you think we do?
Give us a call. We're there for you 24/7, 365 days a year.
Enough said.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
3:38, 22 minutes before the top of the hour, Salem Radio Network News, and then we continue in the second hour of Max World Live on a Friday. Guys! Fridays are 15% more fun. And when I saw Brian Meyer walk in from Uncaffeinated Thoughts with Brian Fandersharter, I knew today would be fun because we've got tickets to give away, and you've got about 16 minutes to either text Bob or call Jebediah and give us your name, how many tickets you'd like, and in about 20 minutes or so, we're going to give the first package of tickets away. And Decaffeinated Thoughts is having their annual briefing in Johnston at the Lions Club next Saturday, the 15th, and we want to give you some tickets. All right, Brian, you wanted to chime in on the question that I asked Joe and the panel over here, and that is, given what our government, what society, what authority has done with marriage, and Dan, you shouldn't have asked me. See, it's your opinion I care about, not my own. But on this subject, I'm a little outspoken. The question I asked was, as honest pastors and representatives of the Bible, are you willing to simply marry someone in the name of God, in the covenant of God, without rushing to the state and getting their approval? And you wanted to make a comment.
Well, look, we need to look at this from a historical perspective for a moment. You have to understand, until the Protestant Reformation, marriage was looked at by the church as a sacrament. When the Protestant Reformation took place, at least in the English-speaking world, they debated the nature of marriage at some length in the mid-17th century. And it was decided by the theologians of the day at that time that marriage was not only not a sacrament, but it was indeed a civil ordinance, which was not to be restricted merely to the church, but to everybody, everywhere. So it was a civil ordinance, not exclusive to the church, to be participated in by all peoples in all places. It involved things such as paternity and property, and therefore really fell within the wheelhouse of the civil magistrate or the state, or whatever phrase you want to use there. So I understand, trust me, I understand the frustration that Christians are having nowadays, given what the Supreme Court has done to the institution of marriage. I understand it. And I understand the reaction which says we don't need the state messing around with the institution of marriage. Let's just keep it in the church where it belongs. I understand the response, but I really think it misses the point, which is that marriage is a civil institution inherently. I'm not saying it has no religious aspects at all. I'm simply saying that it is indeed a civil ordinance. Again, it involves such things as paternity and property, and it definitely belongs in the wheelhouse of the civil magistrate as opposed to the church.
All right. I'm going to get in trouble here. But
it's your show. It's okay.
I'll answer your question. I'm a business person. I and my bride can form an LLC in the state of Iowa and meet all the authoritative /tax obligations that the state of Iowa would ever put on us, without giving them any authority over when my marriage begins and when it ends, and what is marriage overall. So, especially if a marriage is not going to produce offspring, I understand maybe there's a different line of thinking if there's going to be children, because unfortunately in our society today, we do need a village to take care of the kids. I wish we didn't, but we do. But if you've got people in another portion of their life, and the only thing they care about is their right with God, they're not going to have kids. The money is separated. They file separately. They don't want to just hook up. I'm old. I don't know what they say anymore. They don't want to just live in sin or live against what their church says. And so they go before God with their pastor and make a covenant to love, honor, and cherish all those things that love is in 1 Corinthians 13 and commit to that. But to give the power to the state, I'm not sure that's what Paul meant. Now, I don't know. When I get to heaven, I'll get there before you. I'm going to have a radio show, and I'm going to interview Paul, and I'm going to find out what he really meant by Romans 13, and I think he's going to say, I didn't write that. I don't know. But that's my answer. All right. So if you're 21 and getting married and plan on having a litter, then I think you need to get it recognized by the state. But if you're done having kids and you're fine with each other and financially, I'm just not sure why the state gets to get in my marriage, because quite frankly, they've ruined it. They no longer, I mean, it's like, I'll make everybody mad today. It's like giving an illegal alien a driver's license. How do you do that? How do you give somebody that's not a citizen of the United States a license to drive in the United States? I'm sorry. I don't get that.
You're an equal opportunity offender today.
I am. I'm always. All right. So, Joe, do you have any comment on that question? You said you wanted to wait till last.
Very ably answered. No, I was only pointing out earlier, we did a conference in Haiti a couple of months ago, and this subject came up consistently there because a lot of couples were opting to live together rather than marry, not because they didn't want to commit, but because the expense of a reception was very high for most of them, and yet there was such a stigma attached to being married without a big reception that many of them felt the stigma of living together was more endurable than the stigma of getting married without a proper reception. And so we were trying to gently teach that we really felt that unless the state is trying to compel you to do something which is in direct violation of the faith, that you should be trying to comply with the statutes and with the basic definitions that the state has given.
Okay, but by them okaying gay, and I'm not, you and I just had a conversation an hour ago that I am not anti-gay.
Yeah.
Gay people are just like me, just sinners, and their sin is that, and my sin is, it's many.
Yeah.
So it's not that. It's the fact that the government has made a mockery of 1 Corinthians 13 on what marriage is.
Well, I would agree with you there, but I think that mockery began a long time ago. I think we are reaping the consequences of no-fault divorce.
Yes,
I think we're
agree.
reaping the consequences of a very cavalier attitude towards commitment.
Yes.
And so it seems to me, if the definition of marriage as ratified by Jesus is that a man will leave his father and mother, cleave to his wife, they become one flesh, what God's joined together, let no one set asunder, and that God made them male and female. He basically was saying that the definitive elements of marriage would be its heterosexual nature, of course, but also its permanence and the covenant as being monogamous, one-on-one. And then when we started chipping away at that, I think we opened the door for a chipping away at everything else, because it just logically follows. Well, if it doesn't have to be permanent, why does it have to be heterosexual? And the next step, well, I think we all do, is, well, if it doesn't have to be heterosexual, why does it have to be one-on-one? Why not polygamy?
Yeah. And By the way, my listeners just stood up and applauded you, not because they agree with you, but you and I agree. I have said for decades that the downfall of America came from no false divorce.
Yep.
It was being greedy and saying, well, no, we need 2 cars. No, we need an extra bedroom. Yep. And then it's sending kids home from school with keys around their neck and having them unsupervised.
Yeah.
I mean, I got to tell you, I grew up in Leave It to Beaverland. And when I came home from Beatrice Junior High school, whatever it was, Mom was there.
Mac, we're from the same era. And you notice when we saw that revision, that big social experiment that we went on as a country, where we said, well, this is humane. We don't want people unhappy. We want them fulfilled. If they're in an unhappy marriage, it's cruel to force them, blah, blah, blah. And the kids will be all right. We basically gave the green light to a social experiment. Now, decades later,
it didn't
we're
work.
all going, oops.
Yeah.
But that horse is out of the barn. But we're doing the same thing now. I think now we're again revising in the interest of a social experiment, which appears on the surface to be humane.
Joe Dallas is my guest. You'll hear his speak on, his teachings on biblical sexuality tomorrow at Walnut Creek Church, 8:30 in the morning to 2 p.m. as a conference, then at all the services tomorrow. If you've got a question, he's got an answer, give us a call. It's your voice we want to hear live in Mac's World.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Credit cards are like grandkids. They love you, sometimes get out of control, and it's fun to get a new one. Who can stop them from piling on?
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of Des Moines. At the end of the day, you can return the grandkids, but you're stuck paying off bad credit card debt. We'll help you put the fun back into using credit cards responsibly. Right, kids?
Yeah! If you need help getting credit cards off your back, call Consumer Credit of Des Moines.
Rockton Prevention is celebrating 25 years of creating a caring community. We want to say thank you to the tens of thousands of Rock High School mentors that have carried our message of health, love, and encouragement to over 1.5 million children, teachers, and parents. Our mentors teach children methods and skills to prevent bullying and drug use. Thank you to all the school administrators, teachers, and counselors for their opportunity to serve you. Rock on, fair citizens. Rock on. This is Pat McManus for Rockton Prevention, the Richard O. Jacobson Foundation, and this station.
Northern Lights Pizza, your home of the tasty crust. Our garlic butter sauce now available in 12-ounce bottles at Northern Lights, Hy-Vee, and Graziano's.
Northern Lights Pizza.
Hi, my name is David Burrier, your Hope Coach. I host a live weekly talk show called I've Been There every Thursday afternoon at 5:30, right here on webcast1live.com, and on my weekly radio program Saturday mornings at 10 on Truth Network 99.3 FM. I interview common, everyday people who have survived incredible life challenges and who testify to God's faithfulness in the midst of their storms. So join me as we bring a message of hope and encouragement. Everybody needs hope. I know, because I've been there.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live. From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
We're just moments away from giving away those tickets to Caffeinated Thoughts Briefing next Saturday, not tomorrow, a week from tomorrow, at the Johnston's Lion Clubs, where Dr. E. Calvin Beisner on creation and environment will be there speaking. Also, other people, including Mike Ahmed. And it's worth it. And you'll get a free ticket, which means a free lunch. Yes, there is such thing as a free lunch, Virginia. And all you need to do is text us or call us and get your name in. And in about 8 minutes, we'll call out a name and we'll give you a pair of tickets. All right, we have a text from the Service Legends Truth text line. Bob, lay it on me.
Lay it on you? Okay. do you still identify as gay? And this is to Joe. Do you still identify as gay?
No, I don't. Gay is a very broad term. I repented of homosexual behavior in January of 1984 after being involved sexually with men for several years. When I repented of the behavior, I immediately stopped identifying myself as gay, not because repentance of the behavior eradicated all homosexual responses, but I chose not to identify myself primarily by those responses. You see what I mean?
Yeah. And my question is, like, Mac considers himself an alcoholic, even though he hasn't touched the drink for how many years now, Mac?
2,394 days. I don't know, something like that.
So,
6 years.
So, what I'm saying is that they always consider themselves as alcoholic once they've been there, even if they haven't consumed, even for years and years and years and years.
I think if you've had any kind of a dependency, like a chemical dependency, it is very wise to remember that you have a predisposition towards that. Just like it's wise for me to recognize, although I've been married for almost 30 years, I've enjoyed a normal relationship with my wife, I could, under the right circumstances, if I allowed myself to walk into those circumstances, reawaken, I think, sexual desires for men, but for obvious reasons. I like my life very much. I'm not going to go there. But to put the label gay on that, to me, would be wrong for two reasons. One, it would be an over-identification with something that I don't identify myself by. Secondly, I think gay is a positive term for something which, from a biblical perspective, is not positive. Homosexuality is one of many sexual behaviors and or lust that are biblically condemned, so to put a positive spin on it would not do for me.
Joe Dallas is our guest. His book is out, available online. Just Google it. It's called Speaking of Homosexuality, Discussing the Issues with Kindness and Clarity. It's a Baker book published by the Baker Publishing Group, and I would encourage you to get it and read it and understand it. You got another text? Go ahead, Bob.
I've got another text that just came in.
It to me.
If the government changed the word marriage to civil union, should Christians stop trying to stop same-sex civil unions?
Is that for me? You're
That's
looking
for
at me, yeah. I don't think
Joe, they don't ask me questions.
Okay.
They don't want to hear the
Gotcha,
answer. They don't ask Frank. That should be obvious to you.
I don't think the government should be fostering or sponsoring sexual relationships between people of the same sex, but I think the government should be allowing them. I've always been against the criminalization of homosexuality because I felt it was a double standard to say it is illegal for people of the same sex to engage, but we don't criminalize people if they commit adultery or fornication. So to me, the only way to be consistent and fair would either to criminalize all sexual sins as defined in the Bible, or only criminalize those that are verifiably damaging to another person, like rape or child molestation. So for that reason, no, I would not like to see the government foster the sponsoring of civil unions between same-sex people. But I do think same-sex couples, like any couple, if they choose to have some sort of a contractual arrangement, should be able to have one. And before we redefined marriage, this is all water under the bridge now, what we're discussing. But
no, it's not yet.
Well, maybe, perhaps not. But my sense of it was that if two people want to form a partnership of any sort, two consenting adults, they should have the right to do so and be able to draw up a contract that can allow them for whatever mutual benefits they're wanting to derive from that partnership.
So, hold on, back up. I was half listening. So you agree with me that we don't need a state, I may have heard it wrong. We don't need a state license, that Tom and Cindy can just drop a legal contract that is signed and no, go ahead.
I think that before God, two believers, let's talk about both Christians and non-Christians, before God, two believers could just draw up a contract and be married in the eyes of God, but I don't think they should, because I think that we have a government system that we should adhere to, provided the system is not pressuring us to do something that contradicts our conscience or our faith.
All right, did I hear you correctly? Again, I don't want to put words in your mouth. I just hear things. Did I hear you correctly that you'd be okay with the conversation that if two married people in the covenant of God and in the state, one of them commits adultery, that should be against the law?
No, just the opposite. I don't believe we should criminalize.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because my point was I argued against the criminalization of homosexuality for that very reason. I don't believe that sexual acts between consenting adults should be criminalized. I think they may be sins, but I don't think the government should step in and punish them.
All right, Brian, how many, hold up your fingers, how many names do you have called in for the tickets? All right. And Bob, how many do you have? We have, all right. So we're going to hold all 10 for the next hour. Okay. And I thank you. I very much thank you for not putting your name on a list if you don't want to attend. Because sometimes it's just cool to win, and I get that. But I appreciate that you respect the Caffeinated Thoughts briefing enough that you're not willing to take their tickets and then not show up. All right, we're going to take our top of the hour break. Salem Radio Network News is coming up next. We'll get an update on the Miami hurricane. I haven't watched much or listened to much on the hurricane. I know this morning they were talking about that when this hurricane drives up the eastern coast, eventually into Charleston, which is just Myrtle Beach, the whole 9 area, it's then going to do a U-turn, and it's going to come back out in the Atlantic, mix with another hurricane system, and within 2 weeks start driving itself up the Atlantic coast again, hitting Florida, Haiti, and those places again. Just pray. This is just devastating to our country, to Haiti, a country that seems to be just constantly paralyzed by the grip of spiritual warfare. So pray for Jesus to show up there and in his name drive away those demons and those accusers' minions, and stop hurting innocent people who are simply victims of a culture that doesn't know God. They don't know him. And maybe next time you decide you want to do something rather than go on a vacation, you'll go down to Haiti and preach the gospel. Because after all, Matthew says, go out into the world and make disciples of all men and teach them the story of the everlasting love of Jesus Christ. Joe Dallas is our guest, Walnut Creek Church in the house, and so are you. And I thank you for listening to Max World Live. If I haven't told you lately, thanks for listening. I love this job. Couldn't do it without you, right here on 99.3 FM.